Good morning. Good morning. It is September 23rd, 2025. It is Tuesday, everyone. It's about 9:40. The market just opened up. And yeah, let's jump into these charts, right? Excuse me. So, here's where we left off. We were in this zone right here as of yesterday. The weekend spilled over and went down to the bottom end of the range. One thing that I was looking for was I was looking for a retest of this zone here because this was the breakout to this section over here, which we were in for quite some time. So yeah, we're in the critical zone now. Now remember, I mentioned yesterday that in this area, it will always feel like we're going to zero. Okay, but we are in this long zone, right? As part of the range. And you can see we've got a touch over here. We've got a touch over here. We've got some buildup over here. Again, here's a whole bunch of touches that went through. And now we've got this over here. Okay. So this is what I'm looking for right there. This candle is of concern to mine because first of all, we need to get over this spot right here, this change of character area, right? Because if it is a retest, we should see some kind of like movement up of some sort, right? So if we are going up, of course, this is going to be resistance for a hot minute. And if it stays resistance, you can see like it's struggling here, then we can possibly go very, much lower, right? But again, we're looking at this long zone here as this is kind of like the bottom line. We're overshooting it, of course, for our stop, but this is kind of how we're going to play this, right? So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this to have a move up, but ultimately I am looking for this to get above here. The reason why is because of these candles. These candles were resistance. And if this continues to be resistance, then I think we're going down lower, right? So we have to just be patient at this point. Because this was such a hardcore dip over the weekend, yeah, it's starting to create a little bit of fear. And, I've mentioned before that you buy in fear, right? But we don't want to be silly with this. We want to be smart as much as we possibly can. So you just don't want to just keep buying. That's not the case, right? But some of these alts have taken a pretty hardcore spill, which again, I believe is a good opportunity to kind of get in because I do think we're about to see some craziness in the market. So this is my candle that I'm looking at right here. Okay. There is some liquidity that's sitting right over here. So this ultimately is a target right now. But if we cannot get over this, then yeah, this is going to be later. Okay, so we have to get over this line right over here in order to do that. Now we could, because there's also like some liquidity that's left over here, there is some liquidity left over here as well. So we can come down to kind of revisit this candle, maybe knock some people out that, that took a long right there, and then we can start moving up. So yeah, that's ultimately what I'm looking for. I'm looking for it to come down just a little bit lower and then maybe start swooping up over into this zone. Okay? As far as like taking a short at this point, I don't really think that it's a good idea. Not in this zone anyway. I mean, it's a little bit unsure. So what I would look for is if we start getting rejections over here, especially on this right here. If we pop up and we do get some kind of rejection, then I think that's it. I think this zone is done. The reason why is because we've got, consolidation here. We've got two areas of manipulation right over here. And now we are kind of in the zone of continuation. And right now we do feel like we're leaning to the downside. But as long as we are in this range, yeah, we can possibly bounce up at that point, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm still in my longs at this point. This area is my concern. And you know, if we take a look at the lower time frames, you can see exactly what my concern is as we're looking at this. You can see we've got like this rejection, right? Now, we've got a lower low here, right? Lower low, right? And we've got a lower high and a lower high. So if we don't find any strength around here, then yeah, we're kind of settling out here, right? So here's the range that we're looking at right here in this spot. So we could totally get a fake out and then come down. And that's why I was talking about this zone could possibly be a short area if we find that it's starting to reject, right? In the meantime, yeah, I'm just going to be patient and take a look and, you know, just watch the charts, see exactly what my moves are going to be, because I do have my long, I do have an area that I'm going to be stopped out on. Now let's go take a look over at Ethereum. Ethereum is feeling a lot weaker, and this has to do with the idea of Bitcoin dominance at this point, right? So, excuse me, this is the same exact kind of structure that Bitcoin has right now. As you can see, we took a very hard spill, and here's an order block right over here. I am looking for this order block to be tapped, right? So if we find that it gets tapped and it's rejected, then I believe we're going lower. But if we can't get over this right here, which again, look, you notice this line here, that was my line in the sand for my other position. If we cannot get over this line right over here, which is basically kind of like where we're at, then I think we're going lower, you know, much lower. And Ethereum might be the one to short, if anything, because the dominance is starting to feel a lot more weaker. Now, again, you know, we were looking at this chart on another time frame. This area right here, this whole area is the previous. This whole area is the previous high. So we are retesting the support area, which it was resistance before, right? And now we've tapped it once for support, and this could possibly be the next support, right? So if we do move up, and again, this candle right here is my concern. The problem is that there is liquidity left right over here. It was such a sharp move down that there's a lot of people that are really underwater at this spot, right? But also there are people that are underwater on this spot as well. So we can definitely kind of come down to try to rinse people out of this position. But this is the spot right here that I'm looking at, okay? If we can't get over top of this, then I believe we're going much lower, right? And then we'll reassess what the plan is. As long as we're in the range still plays, because again, we feel like it's going to zero at this point. And it's not about what you feel, it's about what the chart normally does, right? So if I were to go look at let's go take a look at the dominance, not if I'm going to go look, let's just go take a look at the dominance, right? So here's where we left off on Ethereum dominance. And we were looking at this to possibly break. And, you know, it did this fake out move, right? And here we are. Now, the thing about these zones here, you notice how wide these blocks are. The target usually is the middle of this block. And notice where this hit. It hit the middle of the block. Once it hits the middle of the block is then mitigated, right? So basically, it doesn't have to go any lower, but if it comes down here and it taps and then it bounces up, then this block is completely mitigated and anything that was in here is gone at this point. But it usually starts from the center point, always the center point. You'll start to see that pattern, right? So if we do find some kind of support here for Ethereum, then maybe it'll come back and revisit this line like so, right? And then at that point, you know, we'll see if it kind of does a breakout, giving Ethereum a lot more strength. Let me draw a line over here so you can see what we're looking at. Let's just make it red so we can see it. Actually, I'll make it yellow. There we go. That's a little bit better, right? So there we go right there. And this becomes relevant because of this right over here and this. But again, this is starting to feel very sluggish, right? So I'm not really sure what today is going to bring, especially because the S&P 500 went up yesterday. Usually crypto follows the S&P. But let's jump over to Bitcoin dominance so we can see exactly what's going on here. So we were in this channel going down. And I called this area the mud. We were kind of stuck in the mud for a little while, right? And you could see it broke out. And this absolutely could be a fake out, just like it did on Ethereum, right? So I'm hoping that this goes a lot lower, giving Ethereum a lot more strength. Now, again, here we go with this candle, right? There's a candle here that needs to be mitigated out. But again, it doesn't really have to at this point. It's starting to feel sluggish as well. So the more sluggish that Bitcoin dominance is, the more that Ethereum dominance will start to rise. So meaning that Ethereum will be the stronger of the two for a little while. So if Bitcoin takes a big dip, then, you know, Ethereum won't move as much. It'll take a dip, but it won't move as much, right? And you could see here that, you know, this right here was the Ethereum dip. This is why Ethereum crashed so hard, because the Bitcoin dominance kicked out. Now, if this continues to go up like this to kind of like retest this area, and Bitcoin is moving up, then Ethereum's not going to move up as much. It'll be a little bit more muted of a move. But if Bitcoin dominance moves up and Bitcoin drops down, then Ethereum's going to drop even heavier. So we have to be careful and kind of pay attention to, you know, which one has the strength, you know. Now, if I go over to the S&P 500, here we go. I added a new line to this because it's starting to become a little bit more visible, right? We were in a channel before. This is the channel right here. And now we've got this trend. But the problem I'm having with this trend is we've got a bunch of touches that are here, right? So let me go to a higher time frame because we looked at this before on a higher time frame. So let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at these touches right here, right? So we've got one touch, two touch, three touch, right? And now what I was looking for was the volume the volume to kind of like chisel out to break out. But what's happening is as you see, it isn't chiseling out. Like, in fact, it's creating another kind of hump like this, and it's touching the top like this, and here it is again, you know. If it was chiseling out, it wouldn't have gone so high, meaning like it would look a little bit more like this, you know, as kind of a lower hump. But because it is moving up the way that it is, I do see that this is now in its own little channel of its own. So it could possibly come up here and touch this area again. And eventually what it'll do is it'll bounce around here. Eventually it'll break out and it'll come down a lot lower. But it'll stay in this channel until it shows otherwise, right? Touching both sides and until it starts losing some volume. So right now we are, the S&P looks like it's moving up. And I would think that Bitcoin and Ethereum would do the same. But for the past day, it's been kind of like stuck in this zone, right? So let's see if it plays catch up today. So that's what I'm looking at. As far as like altcoins go and everything like that, I still believe that we are in this like really good area to buy. I mean, look at this. Look at this pattern that's happening here, right? On Cadena, we've got this pattern that's starting. Actually, it should probably look like this right here. Yeah, actually, let me bring it over here, like so. This pattern that it just looks like it's fading, right? It's kind of getting to the end, but the important part is that this is the bottom of this order block, right? So if we do start to see a move and we start to see a breakout, we're looking at targeting this first and then up here next, right? And this is the same across the board with all of these other ones. Now, you will see that Solana really did kind of like take off. It was trying to revisit its all-time high, and also BNB has gotten to a pretty high place. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Here it is. BNB. BNB has broke its all-time high, right? And the strength on it looks pretty good. So I believe that some of these alts are going to start to follow very soon, right? It's just starting to feel like it all the way around. So anyway, be aware of that. Again, you know, to kind of like sum up what I'm looking for us to get over this area here, and I'm looking for Ethereum to also break up a little bit higher so that we can kind of get out of the danger zone, right? So anyway, that's that for today. Hope you guys are doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye.